All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation on what's new in Laserfiche Web Access 10. My name is Brandon Buckwich, Technical Marketing Engineer with Laserfiche. Very excited to be presenting on the highlights of our recently released Web Access 10. Also on the line with me as well this morning is none other than Justin Pava, Technical Product Manager at Laserfiche, who will be We'll be answering questions our participants have been submitting at the end of this webinar. So please feel free to submit your questions as we're going through the content here, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can at the end. So we're very excited to release Laserfiche 10 to the full Laserfiche community back at Empower last month in January. So some of you may already be familiar with some of the content we'll be going over today, but maybe there are a couple of classes that you wanted to attend that would go into a little bit more detail on the new features of Laserfiche 10 that you weren't able to attend. Or maybe unfortunately you couldn't attend Empower in the first place. Well, no worries. We'll be diving into a lot of the new features in Laserfiche 10 in the next few weeks here. We're holding a 3-part webinar series, of course, starting from today by diving into Web Access. Next week at the same time, we're going into more of the full suite of Laserfiche 10, checking out a lot of new features there. And in 2 weeks from today, we'll be looking at Quick Fields 10. I do want to mention and clarify here that Quick Fields is still under development, and we are targeting Q1, end of Q1 release, and so that's going to be around March, so very soon. So please look forward to that being available very soon here. So you may be wondering why the specific emphasis on web access and to have its own session. Well, frankly, when we consider all the new features, new enhancements, new improvements we've introduced into web access, we've really realized that we really need to have an individual session to really showcase everything that's new with it. We've really reimagined the web access user interface from the ground up to provide you with a modern and responsive experience here when you're working with your Laserfiche repository through the web, no matter on desktop, tablet, and mobile type of devices. And just to share a little bit more background on the development of Web Access 10, one of the main goals here has really been to try to bridge the gap between IT and our end users. So IT, for example, may prefer to use web-based applications to take advantage of simple deployments and easy maintenance. They'll be able to manage one centralized server instead of trying to manage everyone's individual machines. But on the other hand, we may have some end users who may look at web clients and find them perhaps kind of clunky and unresponsive. So again, one of the primary goals of Web Access here has really been to provide a web application tool that both end users and IT alike will want to use and find accessible. So you'll see we've made a lot of improvements, a lot of enhancements to do exactly that. So at this point, let's just jump straight into Web Access 10 and show you exactly why we're so excited about it. Okay, so right away, this is our new enhanced, overhauled, modern look and feel of our Web Access 10. You'll see it provides you with a streamlined and intuitive user experience. You'll notice that the UI is snappy here. If we click on a folder, its contents come up immediately. And we've really focused on trying to make things very convenient to our end users. So for example, a lot of the most common actions for the currently selected entry are shown to the user without really having to navigate through menus at all. So I've selected entry here. If we point our attention to our upper right corner, we have options for downloading the document, scanning into the document, emailing. If we want to access our less common actions, click on the overflow button here. And for example, we can check out the document, or if we want to do something more advanced, we can manage security here as well. Another thing we can do is right-click, and this will bring up our context menu. So this way, a user doesn't necessarily have to be already a product expert to find their actions. It's already all right here conveniently right in front of them. Another way Web Access 10 puts everything conveniently right in front of the user is with this new unified metadata pane here on the right side. So here in this pane, you can view and modify an entry's metadata such as templates, tags, links, all together straight from the folder browser, along with viewing the document properties such as creation date and who last modified the document. So even here, I could edit the tags. I can edit tags here as well. And if I go to the Fields tab, of course, I can edit my fields here. One thing I do want to point out as well while we're looking here is you may have noticed these strips of color next to the template name. So this is where the template colors are shown and to provide a consistent display for all document types and folders. All right, so in general, this right section here is known as your details pane. So in addition to metadata and fields, you can also access your business process history by clicking more here. So you get access business process history there. Access discussions, which is a new feature I'll be going into a little bit more detail later on in the presentation. And also manage your records here, straight from here as well. All right, so we also have a preview tab here, which will give us a preview, of course, of our document. Just to point out a couple of features here, we could zoom in to the document. We could pan around. We also can go into our thumbnail view. We want to see more of our document. Very easy. We could just expand our pane out just like that. So if we want to kind of change the layout of our folder view here, that's very easy to do. We could go to Display Options. And then if we say we want to remove the Preview tab, maybe in our Details pane, we could just uncheck Preview right there. You'll see that you'll notice that it goes away immediately. And if we want to bring that back, just undo that action, or we can just set everything back to default by resetting panes. All right, so let's return back to our central contents pane to point out some other key highlights here. You'll notice we have checkboxes lining right here. So this will allow you to easily work with documents on a touch device, and of course, as well as easily select multiple entries in order to perform operations on them all at once. So let me just quickly demonstrate this. I'll select a few here and decide, well, I'm just going to change the date field just for example. So again, we went to the Fields tab in our Details pane, and I'll set the date for today. And as I select the date here, notice that a little lock icon has shown up right on our document icons here. That's to indicate that changes are currently taking place. Once when we click Save, you'll see that those lock icons have disappeared and we're back to normal. So one of the things I imagine you've likely noticed looking at our central contents pane here are the starred icons right here. So this is a new feature in Laserfiche 10, and this is really a great way to provide for users to mark documents or folders for easy, quick access. It's very easy to star a document. We can just select an entry. We can go to our Details pane right next to the document name. We can add star, remove star in the same way. We can right-click the document, add star that way, remove star in the same way. But now once when we start a document, what do we actually do with it? Well, that's very straightforward as well. So once we start documents, if we point our attention down here to the lower left-hand corner, this is our quick access view. And you'll see we have a starred option right here. This starred quick access view containing your starred entries is not only present in web access, it's the same entries in Laserfiche mobile and desktop client. So this will allow you to quickly access your documents regardless of the application you're working in. So starred is actually just one of a few new quick access views in web access 10 to provide you easy ways to find your common or active documents. A couple other new quick access views include your recently open documents, as well as your documents currently in use or checked out. So in all cases, again, the emphasis here is to be able to conveniently getting right to the documents that you need. All right, so at this point, let's go ahead and open one of our documents here. Okay, so notice the document opens right away in its own document tab. All documents will open in their own tab, allowing you to view documents side by side, undo accidentally closing one, and it'll basically everything else a browser would normally support, this will be able to do. So again, you'll see that we've put everything right in front of the user. The most common actions are displayed in the toolbar. We have a very streamlined look here and feel. You can pan, you can zoom, you can rotate. You have your basic annotations here as well. Your less common annotations are under your overflow button. If you want to access your document operations, such as saving a new document, scanning, printing, that's all available right here under your document name in the upper left corner. You'll also see that the document viewer has our details pane shown here as well. So we can see our metadata, fields, same options here as well. But you'll notice that the preview tab has been replaced with annotations because of course we're already viewing our document. So if we wanted to change our display here, that's also, again, very easy to do. We go back to display options. We can change the number of pages we want to show up to 4 columns. And if we want to change the number of thumbnail columns as well, up to 4 columns, we can go ahead and do that if we wanted to do that. But let's just open another feature we can take advantage of here as well is going into full screen mode to take advantage of the full screen real estate. Just a quick thing to point out, as I'm scrolling through this document, notice that it seamlessly goes through from the bottom of one page to the next. All right, so let's return back to our normal view. And let's switch gears here for a moment. Now, everything I've shown you so far has really been in our desktop browser. But of course, these days, it's more and more common and important to be able to smoothly and easily access documents from tablet and mobile types of devices. So in Web Access 10, we've fully taken this into consideration and have worked to optimize the user's experience to the specifics of the device that they're working in. So Chrome actually allows us to emulate working in Web Access through mobile and tablet devices. So let's go ahead and pretend we are on our tablet now. I've already set this up here. You'll see that we are viewing we have the document viewer as if we are on our iPad. Notice my mouse cursor has been replaced by this gray dot, and this will represent my finger. If you wanted to quickly jump to the Laserfiche mobile app, you're prompted to do that as well up here. A link appears directly to open this app, but let's just stay in the browser for right now, so I'll close out of that. So you'll see in tablet mode here, the pages are emphasized. The entire screen is filled by default. I can scroll through the document. If this was actually on an iPad, I could pinch in to zoom in, zoom out. The button in the lower corner here is for my thumbnails. If there's a specific page I want to jump to, I can also easily do that by going to the Go To button in the lower right. Just to point out a few other features here, you'll notice in the command bar, you could search, you can bring up your details pane. For less common actions, you can also go into the overflow button there. You can show more columns, email a document. From here, we can also perform basic annotations. So let's just demonstrate this very quickly. So I'll just put in a stamp. I will select which one I want. Choose color, and we'll apply it directly through our tablet. and we will save that. All right, so let's go back to our folder view while we're in our tablet mode. So you see this has also been optimized for responsive tablet viewing. If you recall, we in our browser view, we had our left pane for our folders and a quick access view. That has all been stored under this hamburger button. It's so funny that it's actually called that. And then we'll see that we can access our folders from there and start entries directly from under that menu option. So by this way, it only takes up, it really only takes up space when the user actually needs it. Okay, so this will be, this is our tablet view. Let's switch to what the experience looks like from the mobile view now. So here we are in our, pretending we're on our phone. And this is, you'll see we are in our folder view right now. So you can see each item has been, it just shows 2 lines. Because the normal column grid probably just wouldn't make as much sense here. So here, actually running a search or checking through your metadata will end up taking up the entire screen. Because of course it just wouldn't work out to try to squeeze everything right on the side if you're on your phone. So you can see that the user interface really adapts to match your device to provide the optimal user experience based on your individual context. All right, so let's return back to the main folder browser now. There's a couple other features in Web Access 10 I'd like to point out. Okay, so obviously, of course, it's important to be able to easily get our documents into our repository. Web Access 10 has made this even simpler. For example, there's a couple new ways of importing your emails from Outlook, and I'll demonstrate that now. So one of the ways is, I'll just grab my Outlook here. One of the ways we can do that is by, if we have our Laserfiche tab in our Outlook, go to my imported email folder. You can see that I have this option to save into the currently opened folder in Web Access. I've selected the email that I want to bring to import. I'll save to imported email. And you'll see that the correct folder path has already been automatically populated. All my fields are correctly populated as well. Another way that we can easily bring in emails from Outlook is just simply dragging and dropping. So you can see, again, we'll have the correct path here, and all the fields are all populated for us already. And there we go, it's already imported in there. So continuing on with import, let's now consider standardized import structures. And let's say that you want to make sure that all invoices are imported to a specific location in your repository, and say you want to assign it the invoice template. Now, obviously, you can set up routing using Laserfiche workflow, but sometimes that could just end up being more power than you might actually need. So for a basic scenario, Web Access 10 now offers the ability to import profiles. So it's very easy to set this up. I'll click under my username, go under options, go under new document. I've already set up a import profile here. This is where we would go. Just to point out a few features here. So again, import profiles allows us to specify basic behavior at the time of import. So for example, we can specify the template, the volume, as well as the default name and location. So if you're importing documents with a standardized file naming scheme, you can even create custom tokens to use in the target name or location. So in this example, I know that I'll be importing a file with a standardized naming scheme that includes the year and the month associated with my document. So I could define custom tokens for those in the file name format here. and then use that in my document location. So doing this, just make sure that the invoices will be placed correctly in the dynamically generated location. So let's just quickly demonstrate this import ability. So I have a sample document here, and I'll just drag it in. And notice that we're still in our imported email folder actually right now. So you'll see as I import the document, it still has my original file name. If I leave it as this, it'll be imported into my imported email folder. But as soon as I choose an import profile name, my invoice one that I just set up, you notice that everything has been updated. The folder path has been updated as well. The invoice template has been automatically assigned too. So I do want to stress here and point out that import profiles are still not necessarily a substitute for workflow routing, but they really are a pretty nice convenience to help ensure help users ensure that their documents are filed appropriately. So of course they can be defined by individual users or pushed out by an administrator as well. Okay, so switching gears here a little bit, let's take a look at working with media files. So if I return to starred entries again, I've already starred one of the document files I wanted to showcase right now. So I see one of these is a video file as indicated by this video icon. So Laserfiche WebLink 9 introduced the ability to stream media files directly through the browser without downloading them first, and this has been added to web access now as well. So just let's quickly demonstrate this. See, we're still in our browser, and the video would start just like that. All right, pretty cool. All right, so the last topic we'll be going over in our tour, at least, involves records management. So for those of you who use records management, we've made working with records even simpler here. So records managers can go to the records management quick access to quickly run reports for all records currently eligible for cutoff, disposition, or vital records ready for review. So again, we are in our quick access view here, just clicking on records management. So this is currently showing all the record folders eligible for cutoff at this time. Let's take a look at the records tab now. So you can see all of the record management information, including a timeline view of the life cycle and details about the retention rules. These are all available right here in the details pane. So the timeline shows us the important dates in the record's life cycle. So when record is eligible for cutoff or disposition actions, you can actually just perform them directly right here in the timeline. We can also edit the record properties directly here as well by clicking Edit Properties, and you see the different options that are presented to us. All right, so another thing I want to make sure I point out here is that the records pane is still available throughout the folder browser and document viewer. It's not just available through the records management quick access view. Okay, so that will conclude at least the tour portion of this presentation. We saw a lot of exciting things during the tour. Just to provide a quick recap here, we looked at the reimagined, overhauled user interface, streamlining the user experience, and putting everything conveniently right in front of the user. You don't really have to search through dialogues and menus. It's all right there. We also took a look at the document viewer. We can easily scroll through the pages in the document. We could use change up the display to have multiple columns side by side, and use all the available real estate on the screen using full screen mode. We also dove into checking out the interfaces for our mobile and tablet device views, showing how that those are optimized for those kind of devices, and you're able to, and we're providing all the repository functionality on the go. On the go through layouts optimized for the device you're accessing from. And lastly, again, we looked through a number of new features throughout Web Access 10 here in the tour, such as the quick access view, importing. We've looked at how importing has been made easier, dragging and dropping email in. We're setting up import profiles, setting up watching videos, and also managing our records information as well. So again, we covered a lot of exciting things here. There's a lot to be excited about. There's several even more enhancements, improvements that we want to make sure that we share with our community. So we'll be discussing more of those here in the slides. All right, so the first enhancement we'll be going over is the type of discussions that are now enabled in. So I'm not sure exactly where it cut out, but again, we looked at Web Access 10 in the tour. There's a lot of other exciting features we want to showcase, so we'll be diving back in the slides here and we'll showcase some other features. So the first enhancement, again, we're going to be going over is the type of discussions that are now enabled in Web Access. So Web Access 10, in conjunction with Social BPM, and this is not, Social BPM has actually now been rebranded as Laserfiche Discussions, now provides the ability to have discussions directly on your documents and folders. It's very common to have situations where you want to ask questions on a specific document or instructions about the next steps for entries that enter a certain folder. So now you can directly do that in the document viewer or folder browser. What will end up happening is each document is a single post, and there are 3 types of replies you're able to use. You can do questions, discussions, or checklists. The questions will be your standard Q&A format where a person asks a question and others can reply. The original poster can mark question as the correct answer, as Justin has done here for Connie's response. The discussions will be more of a free-flow conversation thread, and then your checklists will allow you to create a task list that both you and others can check off on, and you'll notice that it also lists exactly who checked off on a specific item as well, as will be shown here. So these type of replies and posts are tied directly into Laserfiche Discussions, again, previously known as Social BPM, and you'll be able to seamlessly jump easily between the 2 of them. So having started our discussion in Web Access, we can go directly to the post in the Laserfiche Discussions collaboration site. In this example, in this case, the document itself is the post, and the document is also here embedded directly into the post. So what we actually have here is an embedded Web Access document viewer placed in read-only mode, so our users can read the document directly from Laserfiche Discussions. Also, to quickly note here, you can also do this with folders as well, which will end up embedding the folder tree instead. Okay, so still in our post in Laserfiche Discussions, we scroll down to see our discussion posts, and here we see the same kind of conversation we saw in Web Access. Here we'll have all the functionality of Laserfiche Discussions, such as upvoting a specific reply. So posts and replies can be edited, they can be created here as well, and they will all display right back in Web Access. So sometimes it's important to be able to track a specific conversation. So we've also enabled this ability as well. You can subscribe or unsubscribe to discussions on a particular document or folder directly from Web Access. And sometimes conversation threads, there might be a lot of replies going on. It might be kind of hard to see what maybe still remains as unresolved. So if you need to resolve, so in order to avoid a list of obsolete replies, resolved replies can be hidden in Web Access. As we've done here, if you recall in our previous conversation screenshot, we had a question that was resolved. We've hidden that. We've shown our still remaining checklist action item here. So by hiding resolved replies, it goes away, and I can more easily see my remaining active items. All right, so if you recall during the product tour, I showed a couple of ways where we've made importing documents much more smoother in Web Access 10. Another example of this involves importing documents directly from cloud file systems such as OneDrive, OneDrive for Business, and Google Drive. So, of course, it's more common these days for users to have documents on these sorts of services, and they need to get these documents conveniently into Laserfiche. Well, Web Access 10 is now enabled. You have this capability to do this. You're able to import files from these type of applications. So instead of browsing the Windows file system for your documents, you would browse the cloud file system you're working with and import the same way as if you are working with your local drive. All right, so switching gears here a little bit again, let's take a look at a few enhancements that are particularly useful for repository administration, starting with the topic of required fields. So required fields is, I imagine, it's a pretty straightforward topic I'm sure many of us are familiar with. Basically, if a template contains a required field, that field cannot be blank when you assign that template to a document or folder. So starting in Laserfiche 10, fields can now be designated as required on a template-by-template basis, allowing it to be required in one template, but not in another. But of course, if you still want to mark, if you still want a field required across all templates as before, that's still possible here still. So here, just show a quick example. Here we have the same field request number in two templates. In the case template, we have marked our request number as required, designated by the red asterisk. But in the case notes, request number is not required. So it's really basically as simple as that, but this will help provide a large amount of flexibility when you're designing your templates and fields. Now, another repository administration enhancement is ability to search for entries that are in the recycle bin. Entries in the recycle bin are not included in Laserfiche searches, but sometimes it's important to be able to search here. So, for example, an administrator can only delete a tag when it's no longer assigned to any documents, which can include documents located in the recycle bin. Or another potential scenario is a user accidentally recycled document and they can't find it anymore in the recycle bin to restore. So Laserfiche 10 has now added the ability to perform these type of searches directly from the recycle bin, which is accessed through the search, which is accessed as a special search button in the recycle bin folder. Okay, so settings lockdown is another administration enhancement in Laserfiche 10 to give administrators the ability to lock down certain client-side settings. So this initial implementation allows restricting 5 sets of settings. Just to quickly explain each one, you can lock down search settings that might have overall performance ramifications, or for the document viewer, you can restrict users from being able to undock and change up the layout of their panes. For annotation security, you can prevent users from marking annotation as private or protected. For the quick search, you can restrict what types of searches can be run through quick search. And for advanced import, you can limit the ability to change certain import settings, such as whether documents are OCR'd on import. All right, so changing up a little bit on the topic here again. When people think of responsive design, they might typically consider a mobile or a tablet type of device. However, responsive design can also be relevant for desktop browser situations as well, such as adapting to a smaller browser window or embedding into an external application. So both the document viewer and folder browser have been designed for easily embedding, providing different views that integrators can use here. So you can specify options such as using the tablet view, which will force everything to be in read-only mode, or hide the ability to browse up the folder tree. If we recall, the embedded web access that we actually saw earlier in Laserfiche discussions takes advantage of this and makes use of this flexibility. All right, Web Access 10 also provides the ability to add custom toolbar buttons and context menu items across an entire installation. You can set custom actions to the folder browser toolbar and the document viewer toolbar, or the folder browser context menu, and either as a new button or in the overflow. So in this case, you can see that we've added 2 actions to the document viewer toolbar overflow here, and they're tightly woven into the main user interface, allowing administrators and integrators to seamlessly add additional actions to the application. Also to point out, a scripting API is also available, allowing these custom actions to dynamically obtain information about the selected entry or page, the parent folder, entry metadata, or general information about the current session. So you can basically think about it here as the client automation tools for web access. All right, so one of the last topics we're discussing here in this webinar today for Web Access involves one subtle but very important enhancement in Web Access 10, which involved full-level AA compliance with the Web Content Accessibility 2.0 guidelines, or WCAG. So now WCAG is an accessibility standard that mandates that web applications can be used in scenarios such as low or no vision, screen readers, or without requiring a mouse. Now, WCAG itself is a Canadian compliance standard similar to Section 508, but it is quite a bit more comprehensive here. So we really put a lot of effort into ensuring that web access provides the same quality and user experience in these type of situations. Okay, so before we wrap everything up here, I did want to mention a few things about the desktop client. Obviously, the focus on today's presentation has been on looking into the new features and updates to web access. But that said, some of the items that we discussed today are also present in the desktop client, such as start entries, import profiles, search and recycle bin, locking down settings, and template-specific required fields. These are all present in the desktop client along with web access. All right, so again, we looked at a lot of new features in this section here. Just to quickly wrap everything up and summarize what we looked at. During this section, we looked at the discussion pane where you can have discussions, ask questions, set up checklists directly alongside your documents and folders. We also looked at cloud import services, providing the ability to import documents directly from OneDrive or OneDrive for Business, Google Drive, and we discussed a number of enhancements to help out with repository administration, such as template-specific fields, recycle bin searching, settings lockdown, and again, lastly, we looked at some additional items such as embedding web access for integrations, customizing the web access interface, and WCAG 2.0 AA compliance. So with that, that will wrap up our presentation here for today. Just to share what's coming up next. Again, we are next week we're diving into more of the full product suite in Laserfiche 10, looking at forms, workflow, mobile, Laserfiche discussions, and the Laserfiche directory server. And then 2 weeks from today, we'll have more of an in-depth look into QuickFields 10, which has also been reimagined and overhauled. Again, that will be released in around end of March timeframe. So hope everyone is excited about that. So again, thank you everyone for attending this webinar this morning. I hope everyone's been enjoyed this walkthrough of web access. At this point, I'll hand it over to Justin Pava. We're going to go ahead and go through some of the questions you've submitted now. We'll send out any answers to any questions we don't get to, but of course you can also ask any questions about Laserfiche 10 or anything at all related to Laserfiche on our answers site. So thanks again everyone for attending, and we'll start going through your questions now.
All right, thank you, Brandon. I am going to go through your questions, as Brandon mentioned, so I'm just going to go through the Q&A list. If you haven't asked yet, that's fine. Just go ahead and ask, and we'll get to what we can. If there's anything that we don't have time for, we're going to put together, we're going to publish the Q&A list, so any questions that either I can't answer here or that we just don't have time to get to, we'll still get that available for you after the webinar. So the first question we have is the color coding used by the document, same as the template name, and this is in regards to the templates, the little strip of color that shows next to the entries in the folder listing. And yes, that is the template color basically. So as you specify the templates will have colors associated with them if you've set that up, and that will determine the color that shows up next to the document there in the folder listing. Next question, do starred documents show for just one user, or is it for all users? Starred documents is basically your own personal sort of My Documents list. So that's on a user-by-user basis. If there's documents or folders, perhaps they have a user folder that they commonly have to access, they can go ahead and star that for themselves, and they'll go ahead and be a way for them to quickly access those documents or folders, and that's specifically on a user-by-user basis. What browsers does Web Access support? Does it only support Chrome? No, Web Access supports current versions of IE, Firefox, and Chrome. It also has been seen to be pretty much working in Safari, other browsers. Of course, it works fully with Safari in, say, mobile devices on an iPhone. So, no, it's definitely should support all major browsers that you'd be looking to try it with. We use Chrome in the demos because it's very easy to show responsive, to have the sort of the mobile and tablet emulation, but it supports across the board. Does the approved stamp document who approved it and when? Okay, so the approved stamp there's nothing really special about it with approved. It's just an image that happened to say approved. So there's nothing specifically tied to an approval process just because the stamp happens to say approved. That said, yes, all annotations, it does track who applied them and when, both in the properties of the annotations itself and in the audit trail report. So you can see who applied particular stamps and things like that. Let's see. Since Web Access is responsive, what's the point of using the mobile app at that point? And actually, there's some very notable reasons to still use the mobile app. What we've done with Web Access is we wanted to make sure that you could use the full experience from the browser, full experience from your mobile or tablet browsers, and that it would, be in an environment that matches that works well for those devices. However, by running in a browser, it can't access some of the native functionality of the devices themselves. For example, the Laserfiche mobile app, which can access this functionality, allows you to do additional things like making use of the camera, making use of the GPS or location services. The mobile app also ties in directly with forms. For example, we're working and allows you to do offline handling. For example, currently the mobile app allows you to store documents offline for viewing when you're not connected, and will also soon be allowing the same for form submissions as well. So there's a number of things that you can do in the mobile app, which is sort of more specialized for taking advantage of the device architecture itself, whereas web access would be for your standard online viewing and working with documents in the repository where you wouldn't necessarily be doing import operations or things like that. Let's see. Our current version of web access doesn't allow users to add documents to Laserfiche. Has this changed now? Well, all versions of web access allow users to import documents to Laserfiche. It's possible that you may be thinking of WebLink, which is our web portal application. That's a software that is specifically read-only and is available for organizations to provide a customized web portal for deploying documents to their customers or constituents. So you might be thinking of that. Web access remains the ability that users have the ability to import documents. Of course, that does depend, as always, on their security settings as well. Can we get the demo to show to our team? Actually, an earlier version of this demo is already available online. The full video is available, so that's something that you can access to share with your team as well. Let's see. Can Laserfiche versioning allow administrators to identify changes made to a document easily? So the versioning is tied in with Microsoft Word, so that you can actually compare changes directly from Laserfiche. So if you have a Word document and you have two versions of it where there were changes in between, you can actually compare changes directly from the desktop client or web access, and it will open up in Word with the changes next to each other, with the changes displayed and tracked. So in that case, you can use it to specifically see what changed from version to version. That's specific to Word documents because it's taking advantage of available Word functionality. All right. Is the reply types based on the document found in the Laserfiche repository? I think this had to do with Laserfiche discussions. Laserfiche discussions is basically the ability to have these discussions, questions and answers, checklists associated with individual documents or folders in the Laserfiche repository. So for example, if the documents moved around, the discussions would move around with them, just like metadata on the document. It's tied in through the Laserfiche discussion site, so it actually corresponds to a post on the discussion collaboration site once a discussion is initiated about a particular document or folder. But it is tied explicitly to a specific entry in Laserfiche. Are there table fields? Table fields is something, we're looking into field grids in the upcoming next version of Laserfiche, in Laserfiche 11. We're looking into the ability to have multi-value fields set up such that they can be in grids, so that you see, say, the first value of all the fields together as one set, the second value of all the fields together as a second set. So if you have a customer listing, you want to get their first name, last name, address all together, that will be displayed more like that in the product. However, that's something we're looking at for a future version. Is the server 10 required for Web Access 10? Yes, the Laserfiche 10 server is required. A lot of the functionality does make use of changes to the Laserfiche server. So you do need Web Access, the Laserfiche server 10, to use Web Access with it. There is a demo mode in certain cases where that can be bypassed, but in standard production scenarios, yes, it is required. Let's see. Does tablet and phone mode work in browsers on non-Windows devices, Android and iOS? Yes. The responsive views are totally just based on the web browser. And since you can use any, say the Safari web browser or Chrome web browser on the other devices as well, it'll just work in that. So there's nothing device specific about using web access through the browser on a device. Let's see, is Edge supported? Yes, Edge is supported. Thank you for the reminder. I left that out of my original list. Edge is supported along with IE, Firefox, Chrome. When is Laserfiche 10 available? Laserfiche 10 is already available. The full release was at the Empower 2016 conference earlier in January. So Laserfiche 10 is there and available right now. Let's see. Just checking the questions that have come in since I started doing this. Let's see. Can you scan in the Laserfiche using web access? Yes. Web access allows you to scan. It uses the same scanning application as the desktop client. It's, in fact, the exact same package. It will download locally to your desktop machine in order to do the scanning. So there's actually 3 components that web access has that downloads locally. One is the scanning component. One is the Office plugin for adding functionality into, say, the drag drop from Outlook or from being able to save to Laserfiche directly from Microsoft Word. And then one is the plugin for signing documents. And those 3 require a download, a desktop download. So those are also the 3 items that require you to actually be on a Windows desktop. Every other component of web access that's purely in the browser is device, machine, OS independent. Those 3 components are sort of special in that regards. Let's see. How do you set up the discussion site? Is it just an install? So Laserfiche Discussions is its own product onto itself. The collaboration site, if you've used Laserfiche Answers at all, you're familiar with it. It's that same site that the Laserfiche Discussions product hosts. So you need to install Laserfiche Discussions, and then once it's in place, you basically need to affiliate it with web access. Web access is a way to do that in its configuration site. And at that point, you can go ahead and connect them up that way. Let's see. Printing documents. Printing documents through web access requires the export feature right. Yes, it does, and the reason for this is because of the way that web browser technology works. Basically, as far as the web browser is concerned, in either case, printing or exporting, the document is coming to the local machine, and so there's no differentiation between the 2, really. And so in those cases, you do need the, believe you do need the export right for that. Discussions cannot be used as a collaboration forum. Can users add comments to respective documents? That's exactly what you can use it for. You can have individual discussions. You can have the Q&A. They can be on individual documents, individual folders, and so you can get through, you can have discussions in that way. Is there a manual or a guide available to perform the installation? Yeah, we have a full installation guide. All of our documentation for Laserfiche 10 is available online at any time, and that includes the installation guides. There's also deployment guides across for the entire suite that come with the download packages and are available online. So those are all available for reference as well. Is it possible to apply an import profile to an existing Laserfiche document? That's not really how import profiles work, because import profiles are just there to help you at the time of import. They're not like workflow that does things on the server side. Basically what import profiles are is just think of it as you have a standardized location, path, name, template that you as your own user always places a certain type of document in. you just have to type that in every single time into the import dialog. What import profiles does is allows you to just automatically say, hey, it's this type of document. It types it in for you, basically. But it doesn't do anything past that point. Once it's in the server, import profiles are no longer relevant. So that's basically what's going on with import profiles. So there really is, it's really specific just for import itself. Let's see, I think I might have time for one more. Can you show us display options that allows us to see the picture thumbnails? Well, I don't have the product itself in front of me, but if you're talking about the preview pane, yeah, one of the items in the details pane is the preview pane, and that allows you to switch between Brandon, if maybe you're in a position to bring this up. I know we're pretty much out of time anyway, though. So basically, it allows you to display either the thumbnails of the currently selected document or to switch into a preview view where you can see the image of the pages of the individual document as well. And looks like Brandon is, there you go. So there you have the previews of it, and then there's the little icon in the upper right corner, and you can switch into thumbnail mode. And that's a good time to stop, I think. We pretty much are out of time. Thank you all for attending. Like I said, we're going to go through all of your questions. So if we didn't get to them, or if you still have them, feel free to keep asking them, and we'll take them back to the development team and send out the answers to you. And again, thanks everyone for joining.